Hello, everyone. My name is Jamie Lee. I'm an executive coach. I help smart women who hate office politics get promoted and better paid without throwing anyone under the bus. I am interviewing some of my best clients, and I'm joined by DeAndra today, who works as healthcare compliance officer at Johnson and Johnson. And I think her story is so inspiring and powerful because she really embodies the power and the impact of learning and implementing self-advocacy, what can happen, how your career can transform overnight when you choose to advocate for yourself. Like she ran a mile with the skills that I taught her. She went and got herself a dream job. And so I want to introduce DeAndra to you. DeAndra, where are you joining us from?
I am in Yardley, Pennsylvania right now in my home office.
Yeah, love it. Okay, so would you share with us what was the problem that you were encountering in your career that you were struggling with before coaching?
Okay, I love this question. I was thinking about it, and I think it definitely was I didn't advocate for myself at all, right? So, but it would get to the point where I would just become so frustrated and even like resentful. I want to say resentful because I felt like if I just do my best work, right, someone's going to notice, right? They're going to notice, they're going to say, oh, good job. And I'm going to get that promotion. I'm going to get those opportunities, right? And so when that didn't happen, that caused like a certain sense of bitterness, right? A sense of bitterness because I thought that those were the steps to take pre-coaching. I said, okay, if I do this, this is what we're taught to do, check every box. Then at the end, I should get, the prize at the end, right? And then that didn't happen. And then that kind of threw me for a loop. And I said, okay, I need to regroup. I need to kind of figure out what I'm going to do now and try to take an alternative route because I think I failed miserably the first time, kind of trying to navigate it on my own. And I think I went about it the wrong way.
And it totally makes sense that for so many of us smart women, we believe that, hey, it should work the way it worked in school. Just keep our heads down, do good work,
Right.
wait to get a good grade, right? Wait to get
Right.
noticed. So, how did it feel as you tried to solve this problem? Like, was it frustrating? Was it stressful? You mentioned resentful.
Yeah, you know what? It was frustrating to the point where I just almost gave up, right? I gave in. I just said, fine, you know what? I should be happy. I'm paid decently, right? I have a pretty comfortable job. I like my coworkers for the most part. I'll just deal with it. I'm not happy with it, but I'll just deal with it. I'm getting a paycheck. I need to pay my bills. It was kind of almost like almost complacency, so to speak, just like, all right, it is what it is. Let me just deal with it. That's kind of the point I was at prior to exploring coaching.
Yeah, so it's just like settling and, as you said, complacent with not growing in
Exactly.
your career. Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
So, how was coaching with me different as a solution to this problem for you?
You know what? I think coaching with you was different because you challenge my thoughts, right? Because I have a very strong personality, right? And I'm very definitive in what I think. I think that I'm right a lot of the times, right? Sometimes I'm wrong, but I do like when people can give me another point of view, right? And I think that's kind of what you brought to me. You'd always phrase everything. You're just asking questions, right? You're like, well, what if this, or what if you said this, or so you didn't. I like it that you didn't kind of just tell me what to do. You didn't like give me an answer per se. You let my own thoughts kind of guide me through the process until we got to a certain point. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I knew that answer, right? But I didn't ask myself the right questions. And I think that's what I get from working with you is that you give me alternate ways to think of things and looking at it even from the employer's point of view or a coworker's point of view. I get to see different aspects that in my own mind I can't see for myself. So I only see my point of view, and then that frames all of my thoughts. So that's definitely what I appreciate about coaching.
I love that. And I appreciate how you mentioned like you have this perspective inside of you,
Right.
but it's just through coaching we get to unearth it, uncover it,
Right.
and explore many different perspectives that can help you get the result that you want. And
Exactly.
so what was the moment when you realized it was working for you?
Oh, okay. So when I realized it was like that light bulb aha moment, I was at my previous employer and we talked about, self-advocacy, and I was just like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I don't want to do anything. But I started, like, I remember in a meeting, like I specifically asked for what I wanted. Things that I just only say to myself. I said, no, I want to be put on this project, or I want more opportunities, like things that I would never ever say. I would probably be mortified to say out loud. I started saying, and I was surprised with myself, but I think I had gotten to a point where, okay, what you were doing so far wasn't quite working out the way you wanted to, right? So, try something different. So I think that once I actually started verbalizing what was in my head all this time,
Mhm.
like to people who could make a difference, as I said, okay, yeah, I think this coaching is working for me, because I would have never did that before, honestly. I would have just kind of just dealt with it, I think.
Yeah. And was it still mortifying when you asked for those additional opportunities?
You know what? It wasn't mortifying, but I think it was uncomfortable because it wasn't something that I was used to doing. But the more I did it, the more like confident I became, because I said I already did it
Mm,
once, and then I did it again, and then I did it again, right? So I think I just had to kind of keep practicing that. And but I didn't want to let my fear stop me from speaking up, because I think that's what happened all those prior years. So I
mm,
knew the alternative, right? So I said,
yeah.
okay, I'll go back to my old ways if I don't start speaking up. And we were talking about it, and we're like, well, what's the worst that could happen? They can say no. Then you can have your answer, right? You don't have to speculate. They'll have given you the answer, and then you can, make other decisions. And I said, you know what,
Hmm.
you're right. The worst thing they can say is no, or not at this time. So I decided to do it. So honestly, I think that was like the main aha moment for me when I finally figured, like, okay, I can do this. I think I'm really making some progress.
Love it. And tell us about the moment when you realize, hey, if I can do this, I can go for my dream job.
Yeah, and I think I always was kind of resigned myself to the fact that, all right, this is this job, I'm going to have to stay in this job, even though I'm not necessarily happy, right? And then when we were going through the coaching, I said, okay, I learned to kind of speak up for myself and ask for certain things. And then I said, well, what's stopping me here, right? I said, I know I have a list. I know what type of job I want. I know what company I even want to work for, right? I said, but I just didn't do it, right? I just didn't. I just figured, people tell you just be happy, right? Don't get greedy. Stay at the job that you're at, everything's fine there. And plenty of people told me that. But I think that just having that extra push of confidence, right, from taking the steps that I did make, that kind of pushed me to just say, okay, why not now, right? You know what you want. Just go get it, right? That's part of the whole process here. I said, well, what are you even doing if you're not gonna go for exactly what you want? So that's
Yeah.
what kind of prompted me to just say, you know what? I got my answers that I needed to get, right, from my employer, right? I had the conversations that I needed to have, and then I got clarity, right? And that's what I was missing. I was missing the clarity part. I was filling in the blanks with answers. And I said, no,
Mm.
I need them to answer certain things, right? And then once they did, which wasn't necessarily a bad thing, it just gave me the answers that I needed to kind of go forward with the plan that I had.
Yeah. And what was the compelling reason that you went for what you wanted, even when it was uncomfortable for you?
You know what? It was because what was the compelling? I think it was because I deserve it, right? I deserve it. I worked for it. It was a goal that I set for myself. I'm a
Hmm.
very goal oriented person, so I write down what I want for my career, what I want for my life, and it's just it's power in writing those things down. And I've
Yeah.
noticed that, and so I I'm a go getter, right? That's who I am, and I just said, you know what, you waited too long. I mean, you're not getting any younger. Like, let's just take those steps. And so I just figured now is the time. Now's
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah. This it's so powerful when you went from I'm not going to be able to change my situation to no, now is the time
Right.
to take action.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I want it and I deserve it and I can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I already had the ball rolling, so I figured I had the momentum going. Why stop
Yeah.
now, right? Because I had already taken some of the other steps, so I felt like I was on a roll. So I said, all right, let's just keep going, keep checking off things down the list of things that I want to do.
Yeah. And what was it like negotiating? the job offer?
Oh, you know what? And that was something that would like make me be like a deer in the headlights in any other circumstance, right? I never
Mm-hmm.
wanted to negotiate. I never even wanted to approach it. But I think once I realized that, it's a conversation, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
just a conversation. Let's talk about it. And obviously did my research, right? And so I knew kind of, what we were looking at. And I said, I knew that deep down, I wouldn't be happy with myself. Like I would have an instant bad feeling coming into a new position. And that's like not what you want at all, right? You want to be
Mm-hmm.
happy and full of energy and full of ideas coming into a new company. So I knew that if I didn't, you know, negotiate and advocate for myself, I knew how I would feel because I felt that way previous times, with other
Mm-hmm.
employers. And what we're doing now, we're doing different things. We're not falling back into old habits. So
That's right.
that was something I made it a point to do. And yes, it did feel uncomfortable, but I practiced it, right? So I practiced the speech a couple different times or, different scenarios. So I think it just comes down to you having a certain sense of comfort. You might not be 100% comfortable and you don't have to be to do it, right? You can still do it and still feel slightly uncomfortable.
Yeah, and what I really love about what you just said is how you thought about your future self. Like, what is the experience that I want to set myself up for in the future? Do I want to set myself up for feeling excited and engaged, or do I want to set myself up for feeling disappointed and maybe even resentful that I didn't advocate, that I didn't negotiate? And so you chose something that served you in the future, or now is in your past, but this is how you were able to create the courage to ask for what you want and get it.
Exactly. No,
Yeah.
definitely. That's exactly the way I was looking at that because, if for something like my dream job that I called it, right? It was something
Mm-hmm.
that I knew the type of feelings I wanted to have coming into it. And if I didn't, I knew I wouldn't have those feelings if I didn't like, check off every box that I had in terms of, things that I want, things that I require.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I had to just put it out there, right?
Yeah.
Because I knew I wouldn't feel 100% like, yeah, I'm game, I'm ready, let's go, let's hit the ground running in this position if I didn't do that. And I didn't want to like, diminish like me getting that job in any kind of way, right? Because it was a job that I definitely wanted for years and I didn't, I wanted to go into it with the best possible attitude.
Right. And also, let's not forget that this is a very important job given where we are in the current, like, where this is March 2021, where we are in the pandemic and the role your current employer is having on, you know, producing vaccines for us. And it's very important, not just for you, for
Right.
your happiness, but for the benefit of society.
Yeah, no,
And
definitely.
it's not, that's not diminishing or overplaying anything. I mean, like, this is really real, right?
Right. No, it's very,
Yeah.
very important. It's a, very pretty high profile position. A lot of different things go into it, a lot of different things I have to navigate. And so I wanted to definitely be on my A game. That was my goal coming in, is to kind of wanted to be that person I was in the interview, right? Because I was like excited, I was engaged, I was, all on board for everything. And I wanted to continue to be that person because that was genuine. That wasn't just to get a job, right?
Right.
That was how I genuinely felt about the company and the position, in which I still do. So that's why I wanted to, frame that and come into it with the right mindset.
Yeah, love it. Okay, so how is your career different now? I mean, you've kind of given us a picture already, but now that you have, spoken up for yourself, advocated, negotiated for yourself, what's different now?
You know what? What's different now is that I can't even go back to who I was if I tried. It's kind of like, when you open up Pandora's box, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's because like I'm a different person now, right? Like
Mm,
I require different things. I speak up for myself, right? I ask questions when I don't know the answers and I don't, necessarily feel any kind of shame or anything around that. Like these are things that plagued me, right? For years, things that kind of held me back, right? And now that I've learned better ways to handle situations, that would just be moving backwards. And I'm all about progress, right? So I would never, ever, I don't think I could even go back to that person because I've learned so much and I've changed so much that it just wouldn't even feel natural to me to be that person again. And that's funny to say because it hasn't been like so long, but I've changed in that period of time so much that it's almost like, well, I don't recognize her anymore, right? Like I'm a different person now. Like, we're a whole different person. We approach things differently. And I think one thing I really, really thought about was every time when I would do certain things, I would feel uncomfortable and then I would stop, right? I would stop and I would say, well, I'm feeling uncomfortable. So that must mean I need to stop. So maybe I shouldn't do XYZ activity because I'm uncomfortable. And then kind of working with you and we kind of worked through that. It was no, just because you're uncomfortable doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. Quite the opposite, right? It can mean you're doing something right, right? There could be that growth opportunity there for you. Um, and that was kind of like another light bulb for me. I was like, you know what? I thought of that in the total negative way. I never thought of it in a positive way, that maybe your mind is just saying, okay, this is a little uncharted territory for us, right? We've never really done this. But that doesn't mean you can't do it and you shouldn't do it, right? So in those instances now, I will recognize, okay, yes, I'm uncomfortable. I probably don't even really want to do this. However, in that instance, there's still an opportunity there for me to grow in some kind of way, and I'll still do it, right? I'll do it in spite of how I feel.
Love that. And because that really is the call of leadership,
Right.
doing brave new things. Do you have any advice for people, women who may be watching this, and there's going to be women of color too who watch this, and they're thinking, yeah, but I'm in the problem phase right now. I'm struggling to advocate. I'm struggling to speak up for myself. I know I can be a leader. I know I have potential for more, but I'm feeling kind of stuck. What would be your word of advice?
Well, my advice to that, I think, start at the most basic level. So what I did, identify what's important to you, right? Like start at that. I did like I love lists. So like my top 5 things that were important to me in my life and my career, and they intersect, so they kind of go together, right? And so once I figured out what those are, essentially my top 5 would be like my core values, my deal breakers, right? And once I identified that, I think that it was easier for me to kind of even think forward and go along with the process in terms of new employment or employers or anything like that. You just have to identify what's important to you first. So it's more about self-awareness, and I think that um, some people may overlook that step sometimes or may circle back to that a little bit later, but I think you should actually start with that once you figure out what's important to you and what's not important to you. And I think that's pretty much half the battle right there. You just got to identify that.
Yeah, 100%. Because then when you know what's most important to you, then you know what decisions to make, what actions
Exactly.
to take,
Mm-hmm.
and everything flows from that. Right. So that I love this tactical, actionable advice that you're sharing. Thank you so much, DeAndra. I appreciate you. I appreciate, not everyone takes the coaching and just like runs a mile with it. Not everyone takes it in and opens their mind to really shifting who they are and what they do to create more impact, not just for themselves, but for their family, for the rest of us. So thank you for being an example of what is possible. Your story is amazing, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate that.
All right. Have a great one.
Thank you.